How do you control how hard alter the contact point with the object ball when the cut angle is over 30 degrees? Your Q-tip speed is the result of the backstroke, transition, and follow-through. Most YouTube videos that talk about speed control on a pool table talk about playing position. You know, things like the tangent line, using your rails, playing into the shot triangle, that type of thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. But that's not what this video is about. How do you control how hard you actually stroke your cue stick and hit the cue ball? That's what this video is about. I'll define speed control and types of energy transfer. We'll look at techniques for controlling the speed of your cue stick, and then we'll wrap it up with some practice drills. If you really want to master speed control on a pool table, you need to understand the mechanics of controlling your cue stick. The cueing arts are unique among sports in that we use a tool to propel the ball. The speed of the ball in most sports is controlled by direct contact. Golfers use a tool to strike the ball, but they use clubs with different mass for distance control. In pool, the force we apply affects the speed of the object ball, but most importantly, it affects the distance the cue ball travels. A machine, in theory, could analyze cloth friction, ball cleanliness, humidity, chalk, Q-tip position, air pressure, gravity, the mass of the ball and the mass of your cue stick, and it would calculate the exact correct force of a mechanical cue stick. Your brain, as the pool author and champion player Ray Martin says, is your computer. And your stroking arm is where the speed control happens. Okay, let's define speed control and look at the forces involved. Some of this is going to be obvious to some of you, but a quick summary is helpful. When we talk about speed control, the word speed refers to how far the cue ball travels. The force you apply to your cue stick is first transferred to the cue ball and then divided between cue ball and object ball. More on that in a second. Control is an illusion. We don't really control the cue ball. Remember, we don't touch the balls. We only control the cue stick. And how do you control the cue stick? Do you have a torque wrench in your elbow? No, we control the cue stick with our mind. As you practice, your brain learns to compute how the balls behave. Then you adjust your expectation based on the given table conditions. You know, the speed of the cloth, humidity, how the rails react, etc. This is why home table is considered such a great advantage. If you play on the same table every single day for hours a day, you're going to learn how to super fine-tune the details of how the balls react. It can help to separate your speed control practice into two types. Shots where the cue ball does not touch a rail, and shots where you're using the rail to play position. When the cue ball contacts a rail after the object ball, side spin becomes a major factor in travel distance. If the cue ball does not contact a rail, side spin doesn't affect cue ball speed. However, side spin can alter the contact point with the object ball, thereby changing the fullness of hit, which changes the amount of energy retained by the cue ball. And that is the name of the game regarding speed control, energy transfer. That is, how much energy is retained by the cue ball after it contacts the object ball. The energy that's retained by the cue ball is different for a sliding cue ball than a rolling cue ball. For stun shots, and that's the sliding cue ball you see at the top of the screen, the cue ball and the object ball each leave the collision with the same amount of energy when the cut angle is 45 degrees. When the cut angle is over 45 degrees, the cue ball has more energy than the object ball. Less than 45 degrees, the cue ball has less energy. When the cue ball is rolling, and that's what you see on the bottom of your screen, the cue ball and object ball have the same energy at 30 degrees. When the cut angle is over 30 degrees, the cue ball has more energy. Less than 30 degrees, the cue ball has less energy. The final ingredient of speed control involves directional energy versus rotational energy. Now, every shot imparts energy into the cue ball. In the case of a sliding cue ball, we can assume nearly every bit of energy is directional in the direction of the cue stick. But with follow and draw shots, some of the cue stick's energy is directional, but some energy spins the cue ball. With follow and draw shots, the cue ball always has less energy than the object ball after contact. The cue ball's directional energy dictates it will travel along the 90-degree tangent line between ball centers at impact. This is true even if the cue ball has rotational energy, that's draw or follow. However, if the cue ball has any rotational energy, it will soon curve away from the tangent line in the direction of its spin until an equilibrium is reached, and then it'll travel in a straight line. The curve is more pronounced the smaller the cut angle. I hope I've impressed upon you that a basic understanding of cue ball physics will help as you experiment with cue stick speed and cue tip position while practicing your speed control. Knowing that, we can only judge our results by shooting with a quality technique. And that means a cue delivery system that is efficient and repeatable. 3 components of your shot routine relate directly to speed control: visualization, the shot triangle, and cue delivery. Consider this. What are you thinking about when you're down on the shot? If you've watched my videos on aiming, you know you should be aimed before beginning any warm-up strokes. So some of your time over the ball will be checking your aim. Sure, but what else? Speed control, like everything else, begins when you decide where you want the object ball and cue ball to go. That's the positional route that most speed control videos talk about. Then the first step of your shot routine is standing behind the cue ball and visualizing that happening. Often you will see players moving their cue stick through their bridge to help make this visualization more real. And there's more to that, which I'll get to in the next section. Once down on the shot, this visualization is continued by using the warm-up strokes to sense the speed and direction you want the cue ball to take. This visualization is your pool computer brain's torque wrench. Some players find it helpful during practice sessions to say these words in their mind during each warm-up stroke: direction, speed, aim. I like that order in particular because before shooting, your focus should always return to your aim. The second component for consistent speed control is your shot triangle. Every player has a standard bridge length they use for most shots and a corresponding grip position that places their stroking forearm at 90 degrees to the cue stick. See my proper pool cue length video for more on this topic. The goal of this setup is so your cue tip impacts the cue ball at the bottom of the pendulum, or at the same point in your stroke if you use a piston type stroke. For most shots, the cue tip is drawn back almost to your bridge, and then your muscles contract comfortably. This is equivalent to a stop shot on a ball at least 4 feet away, or 1.5 to 2.5 table lengths of cue ball travel. On a power scale of 1 to 10, this is your 5. Your cue tip speed is the result of the distance it travels over the time it takes. The distance is your bridge length, and the time depends on how hard or soft you apply your muscles. So rather than trying to only control our muscles, can we control the distance as well? Sure. Just bring your cue tip back half as far, stroke normally, and your tip speed will be close to a 2.5. But there's an even better way. You've probably noticed the blue tape on my table in these examples. The tape marks bridge lengths of 6 and 12 inches. Notice my standard bridge length is between the two. By shortening my bridge length to 6 inches or even a bit less, it's much easier to judge shorter backstroke lengths for softer shots. And a longer than standard bridge length makes it easier to access the higher end of the power range. Through experimentation and practice, I know exactly where to grip my cue for each of the 3 corresponding bridge lengths. Remember I mentioned moving your cue to help visualization? Well, it's at this point you can also sense your grip position based on your shot speed decision. The third component, cue stick delivery, has 3 components: the backstroke, transition, and follow-through. Now I could make a 30-minute video just on this topic alone. So here I'm only pointing out the importance of a quality stroke delivery for your speed control. A slow backstroke is the primary key to a smooth stroke and great speed control. In my opinion, the length of time you take to pull your cue back should be about 80% of the total time of cue delivery. A fast backstroke builds unwanted rebound energy in your muscles and tendons, causing inconsistent delivery and timing. If you watch WNT 9-ball matches, you have heard the commentators Jeremy Jones and Scott Frost mention a quick delivery when a player misses. This is what they're talking about. The second component, the transition, is the change in cue stick direction at the back of the backstroke, and it's the most fragile part of the cue delivery. The transition should not be forced or delayed. It should happen naturally, just the way a pendulum reaches its apex, pauses for a split second, and then begins accelerating towards the bottom of the pendulum. To do otherwise can introduce unwanted muscle action, causing a stroke defect. Now, I realize that some players swear by a pronounced pause at the transition. And if that works for you, fine. But in my opinion, a pronounced pause requires effort to maintain and can cause a jerkiness to the delivery. Let's not add anything that can disrupt this most fragile part of the cue delivery. Just let it happen naturally. And the final component is the follow-through. The cue tip should accelerate through the cue ball smoothly. Remember, cue tip speed is largely controlled by establishing the bridge length and backstroke distance when setting up to the shot. So you have time. Don't be in a hurry to get the cue tip up to speed, as this can cause defects in your delivery. The first time a player puts together a slow backstroke and a smooth transition in cue delivery is often a revelation that such control over cue ball speed and direction was even possible. In summary, I thought it might be helpful to just give a quick example. This is a very simple shot. We're paying attention to the technique here, but I need to pocket the 3 ball and play position on the 7. And then I want an angle on the 7. I don't want to be straight in, so I can move the cue ball somewhere else on the table for the next shot. So what I'm preaching to avoid is where you simply rush over to the shot and have a hurried cue delivery system like this. The cue ball might go where you want it or it might not, but we don't know because everything's rushed. Now we understand the reasons why we want things to be slower and more deliberate. So the proper technique might look something more like this. If you're still watching this video, you comprehend that your results when practicing speed control will only be as consistent as your cue stick delivery. So in keeping with that theme, rather than presenting a bunch of speed control drills that you can find anywhere, I want to just give you a few tips on practicing speed control. Now, the first one's strictly a mental exercise. I'll ask you, when you're watching your favorite pro play, what are you looking at? If you're like most people, you watch the object ball to see if it goes in, and then you look to see where the cue ball went. The next time, I challenge you to watch the balls come apart. Focus your attention on the moment the cue ball impacts the object ball. Notice which ball leaves the collision faster. When are the balls sliding versus rolling? Watch how they spin and how and when the spin changes. This information will be absorbed by your pool computer brain, accelerate your understanding of energy transfer, and spark ideas for your speed control practice sessions. The second tip is to use targets when you practice. Having a visual goal during practice helps to imprint the entire process, objectify your results analysis, and build confidence in your expectations. Most targets that you can use are free, like other object balls, paper, smaller pieces of paper, a Post-it note, a dollar bill, $100 bill. There's also a variety of inexpensive target systems. Very serious and motivated players will appreciate the investment in an illuminated cueing arts training system. This is a computer and projector that illuminates your pool table with endless practice routines. Use the discount code SSOP for $50 off your system at icatraining.com. Another method of setting targets is to point to where you want the cue ball to stop during your practice sessions. Here's pro player Christina Tkach during a 124-ball straight pool run. I've edited this rack to emphasize how she points to the desired position before each shot. Also note her slow backstroke speed. Add a few racks of your favorite game to your practice session and point before every shot. See what that does for your speed control. Finally, I want to present to you a unique drill that's really going to help you with your speed control, and then an example of how to shoot a practice shot. I'd like to share with you an exercise that I learned many years ago from a great Denver pool player. I want to give credit to Chuck Nielsen. I call this the dribble drill. And all it is just scatter the balls randomly over the table, and then you want to clear the table. But every single shot that you shoot, you want the object ball to just barely roll up to the edge of the pocket and dribble in. So you're experimenting to learn just how softly you can hit the ball and it still goes in the pocket. And then you're also paying attention to how far does the cue ball travel given the cut angle of the shot that you shoot. So in this exercise, we're always going to be using our close grip position and a short bridge and a very short backstroke. It's okay to take ball in hand. It's not a challenge to see whether you can run all the balls without missing. It's an exercise where you're experimenting with straight in shots, and cut shots of a variety of angles. So if you miss a shot, set it back up and try it again. So what I just learned is that I rushed my shot. I didn't come look at the angle. It was a pretty thin shot. And then it's going to help you to learn to account for throw. Because when you're hitting the cue ball softly, there's going to be a little bit more throw. There's a little more friction between the balls. So you need to make sure you cut it cleanly. Just dribble it into the pocket. So you want to shoot short and long shots. And remember that your long shots come in two varieties. First is when the object ball has to travel a long distance, like this 4-ball. And then the second is when your cue ball has to travel a long distance, like this 8-ball. So as you practice this exercise, an added benefit is you're really going to learn to trust a straight delivery or cue stick at slow speeds. When practicing speed control, you don't want to just shoot drills. It's also helpful to set up a shot and shoot it over and over, experimenting with speed control and direction of the cue ball. So what am I talking about? Here's one example. So this might be the end of a game of 10-ball. Obviously, it's a very simple shot to pocket the 9 and come out for the 10 ball. And when you're doing that, you're probably going to use your standard bridge and maybe draw the cue ball back, or draw your cue stick back about halfway. And that way you get a very controlled speed and easy shot on the 10 ball to win the game. So then we'll set up the same shot and we'll say, okay, what if the 10 ball's over here? Well, I know I need to make the cue ball travel farther, but does that mean I need to hit it harder? And this is where I want you to experiment. So I'm going to try to hit this ball with the same cue speed delivery. But I'm going to use the standard grip position. The only difference is this time when I do my backstroke, I'm going to make sure to pull the cue tip all the way back to my bridge. So getting the position you want, controlling the speed, that is the distance the cue ball travels, isn't always a matter of dialing in the force that you're hitting the ball with. It can be controlled very accurately just with technique. There are times when you have a ball near the rail, but you want to keep the cue ball on that same side of the table. For example, if this was a game of straight pool and I want to use the 10 ball as the break shot, I want an angle somewhere over here so that I can send the cue ball into the rack. In order to do that, I don't want to have to just try and hit it really softly. So what we can do is use a closer grip position and a shorter corresponding bridge length so that we still have our shot triangle with the arm at 90 degrees. And then my backstroke's only going to be 1 inch long. The same exact cut angle that was really easy to make the cue ball travel all the way across the table, I can also hold the cue ball right here just with technique. And I'm sure you can imagine the next example that I want to show you. What if we're playing 10 ball and the 10 ball's over here? Well, now I need to draw the cue ball. Don't get nervous and think, oh boy, I got to really whack this ball. No, let's experiment and see where the cue ball goes just with technique. So this is my standard grip position. I'm going to move it back a little, and then I'm going to have closer to a 12-inch long bridge. No side spin. I just want to hit it accurately. And again, with the longer bridge, I'll make sure that I bring my cue tip all the way back to the bridge, and then I don't have to try and muscle it up. I'm going to get all the power I need. We hope. Let's see. Almost a little bit too much power, just with technique.
The goal of this video is to provide you with the knowledge and tools to understand how to control cue ball speed. We looked at energy transfer for sliding, rolling, and spinning cue balls, directional versus rotational energy, and shot routine components that directly affect speed control. And then we took a look at some tips for your speed control practice sessions. In upcoming videos, I will present speed control exercises that build upon this foundation. If you like this video, please consider clicking the thumbs up button and subscribing. Remember, when you play pool, be sure to play it straight. Thanks for watching. See you next time on Shortstop on Pool.